I think we're live, right?
We'll be in 1 second. Yes, go ahead. We are live. Welcome everybody to the Opolis Board of Stewards meeting. Super excited to have all of you on board. Introducing John Pollard. Take it away.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Post ETH Denver, post 3-week head cold, not COVID, tested negative many times, but many of us on the Board of Stewards also had, there's just, it's ETH Denver, right? So a lot of things were getting wrapped up. Some people did get sick, so we kind of punted a few weeks. So here we are back with a community update, some recap from the event, and we're going to go through some results, etc., and talk about some product and whatnot. So welcome to the March 10th Opolis Employment Commons Community Call. So with me, I have several of the Board of Stewards and then also members of the trustee. So we've got Barry Goers, hey Barry, Bill Warren, Eric Arsenault, Spencer Graham, and Yev Muchnick from the Board of Stewards. And then we've got Ian Bone, Christina Oberto, and it looks like that's all we've got today from the trustee. So without further ado, one of the things that we promised was a community update on results and growth and transparency into a bunch of things. So without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And we're going to run through some stuff. So if you've seen this presentation slide before, you'll know that one of the, oops, no, not that button, John. The other button, slideshow. Come on. If you've seen this slide before, historically, we've actually had our presentation sort of, I would call it ecosystem agnostic, maybe. We haven't slanted the product toward DAOs or any other particular groups of potential constituencies, but you'll notice now that we are going to be taking a much heavier emphasis on sort of the future of work being Web3. So what does that mean? It means DAOs, digital cooperatives, et cetera, So really using the community moniker more and emphasizing that the future of work and Web3 are kind of the same thing in some ways. I mean, it's a functional, legal, and structural shift of how people relate to their income and how they relate legally to other parties that might be paying them for services. So, as you all know, Opolis is core focus is to build a public utility infrastructure for employment on a global basis and to essentially give individual workers, DAO contributors, future work participants, the ability to work from where, with whom, and how much they choose globally. So a little bit of taxonomy shift, just a little point out, just in case you're curious. This presentation today is the short version. We do have a longer presentation that's sort of more of an introduction to Opolis, et cetera, for investors and whatnot, but we're not doing any of that today. So jumping straight into growth and projections. So this is a key point of curiosity for existing stakeholders. It's like, okay, well, how are we doing? Where are we going? Well, the good news is, we're growing super fast. 142 members so far in Q1 2022. That includes the January 1st cohort. That pretty much doubled the amount of members that we had. So in one quarter, it's 100% growth. We're using 15%-ish month-over-month projections to round out the year at about 1,000 members. and just under 100 million ACPV. So to just refresh your memory, the key metric that we use to evaluate value accrual is ACPV. That's annualized commons payroll volume. So that metric is really the culmination of every other effort and activity, whether it's product or new memberships or incentivizing more consumption or whatever it might be. The goal is to grow payroll volume. And the goal to grow payroll volume is the path to economic sustainability for the community. With the 1% community sustainability fee, all you got to do is look at what amount of payroll we're running and then compare that against 1% of that number, and that's the platform revenue or the ecosystem revenue that's made by the community. At scale, if you really dial out the numbers, I mean, 1,000 people for context is not a lot in terms of what the PEO world. The PEO world, you'll see anywhere from 200,000 to way more than that as members. They do it differently in PEOs than we do, because remember, we're a DEO, a decentralized employment organization, community owned. We're a cooperative, an employment DAO, whereas these typical PEOs are highly centralized extractive mechanisms. If we were to scale to a place of 10,000 members, 100,000 members, 250,000 members, 500,000 members, I mean, these numbers are entirely doable, in my opinion, and I think we will absolutely do that and more based on the frame. There's a lot of incentives for people to come and stay. You can do the math on what the revenue actually ends up being. I mean, at an average payroll of about 100,000 per person right now, that's about $1,000 per year per member that's being paid into the sustainability bucket, and that starts to scale really nicely. And then remember, those profits, it's a cooperative, come back to the members of work token holders, pro rata based on if and when there's a dividend declared, et cetera, et cetera. So again, 1,000 members by the end of the year. That would also mean that we would be shifting governance from the Board of Stewards entirely to a community-driven governance model. So we will be, in anticipation of that, there will be significant work put into that effort in Q2 and continuing through the end of the year. And then again, the ACPV estimate by the end of the year is $100 million. So it might seem like a lot. It is. I mean, 1,000-person company is a lot, right? That's a lot of people. But again, in terms of sustainability, we're aiming for higher. So, obviously we've got to walk before we run. The community has done a good job at that. So we're very pleased with the results that we've been able to create collectively here. But we still have a lot more to do in terms of really shoring up sustainability on behalf of the community long term. So traction and product market fit. So year-over-year growth is 1,100%, just under. And for context in this, a little bit more just precise, we went from 4.1 million in ACPV in March 2021 to 28 million in March of 2022. That's a huge growth. Again, product market fit, I've said this before, one of the things that I think we have identified is the need. They call this in the kind of investment growth world, product market fit. So product market fit is where you've identified that the product you're offering is the right timing and the right scope for your audience. And usually you have to prove that through adoption, right? So we've certainly proven that through adoption. And the next phase is really growth and scaling. We are operating currently in 37 states. When we actually did the original community fundraise last year, that was about May, I think we had targeted, California, Colorado, Oregon, and like 2 other states. And in 1 year, that's expanded to 37. So this is a testament to the decentralization of the future of work, right? I mean, we're all working A lot of the people that we have are working on the same projects in some cases. Like there's a lot of, Venn diagram wise, there's a lot of crossover and sort of cross pollination. Web3 is a very community driven thing, but we've got people all over the country, right? So this is, I think, just a microcosm of example of how things are going to go into the future. I mean, it's not just going to be diversity of states, it's going to be diversity of countries, geographies all over the globe, which is again why Opolis aims to build a global public utility infrastructure for employment, and some more to come on that. Now, a couple of just interesting points we do track when we meet with a prospective member. We have a rating system to determine like interest, right? Like the quality of the lead. Are they qualified? How interested are they? And we kind of rate that. 9 out of 10 of the people that we meet with are signaling heavy interest in joining. Now, that doesn't mean they all join right away. There's a lot of, as everybody who's a member knows, there's some logistical hoops you got to jump through. You got to have your LLC, like S Corp. You got to get your situation in order, figure out a few things. There's, being a solopreneur isn't just like a point and click kind of thing for everyone. For some people, it is. It's very simple. For other people, there's a little bit of complexity there. We have seen a long tail with certain members. We've met with people last summer who, for example, then joined in November, December. So there is a sales cycle, although the behavior of the prospective members is very consumer-esque, meaning it's very personalized, it's very emotional. Usually those kinds of decisions are made with shorter timelines. This has proven to be both short and long, depending on the situation. So we haven't come up with a full recipe on exactly how to predict that. I don't know that we have enough data yet to be really good at a macro data analysis on sort of how to predict like what percentage of each interested cohort might join now versus later, but we're working on some of that. But generally, again, just reinforcement of the product market fit, as demonstrated again by traction, as well as just the overall sentiment from the ecosystem. One other point of interest here, a lot of our growth has come by referrals. And this is something that we're going to be doubling and tripling down on here in the rest of Q1 and really the rest of the year as a community-based growth strategy, because we find that from a join percentage, referrals are exponentially more likely to join than just a lead that we get somewhere off the internet. Now, we count referrals as members that come from places like Bankless or DAOs that might be a coalition member that are working on decentralizing or something like that. Those are all referrals. So 21% of members have referred at least one new member, which is leading indicator of the growth strategy that we need to implement. Because I've said this before, and I'll say it again, we cannot market Opolis like you would a traditional HR tech or B2B service. We can't. It won't work. 2, it's not cost effective. We can't make the unit economics of cost of acquisition, like cost to acquire a new member. It's too expensive. It's going to cost probably 3 or 4 times as much to do it the old school way as it is to execute a community-driven approach with appropriately aligned incentives. Excuse me. I'm still kind of getting over a lingering cough and congestion. So speaking of the community-driven approach, let's talk about that. So as everybody knows, there are 2 different types of memberships at the Opolis Employment Commons. The first is an employee member, and the second is a coalition member. And just for refresher purposes, the coalition is the coalition in support of the self-sovereign worker. Call it whatever you want, solopreneur, self-sovereign worker, independent worker. We prefer self-sovereign worker because we think that better aligns with, even though it's a little obscure for a lot of people that might still be living in normie land, like what the hell is a self-sovereign worker? For simplicity, we think it aligns better with the Web3 ethos. And just to distill it, a self-sovereign worker is somebody that owns and controls their employment decisions 100% without giving up their independence. So it's sort of having the best of both worlds. You get the recreation of W-2 employment without having to actually subjugate yourself to any other third party. Now, the third group here, before I unpack each of these, is partners. And partners would be anybody who, for whatever reason, isn't interested in, can't, or doesn't join the commons formally. Now, this might be a DAO. It might be that doesn't have like any like legal way to join. It might be, even though we have a path for that, it might be a publicly traded company that can't do it for some sort of cryptocurrency regulation kind of thing, or just a a channel partnership that's more interested in using Opolis as a benefit to their community and is less concerned, or maybe doesn't understand the token economics, or whatever it might be. We've just got a kind of third bucket here that is kind of the catch-all for anybody who's not a member now or yet of the commons. Now back to the employee bucket here. Under the employee bucket, we're creating a new category, and there's going to be a lot more to come on this, so I'm just introducing the concept today. But the concept is that of an ambassadorship. So what does it mean to be an ambassador? Well, an ambassador will be skilled and given some training in helping solve potential member questions, advocating for the commons. I'm not going to say selling anything, because we found that Opolis doesn't really need salespeople. What Opolis needs is people helping educate interested parties in what Opolis is and how it can benefit them. So it's really about closing what I call, or what we call, the education gap. Now let me explain what that is, okay? Most people who have spent their professional careers sitting in the W-2 land have just gotten a W-2 at the end of the year. It's really simple. They get a form that they hand to their CPA, or they fill out with TurboTax, and it tells them how much they're getting or how much they need to pay. And that's kind of the end of it. It's really simple. They don't ever go out and shop for health benefits. They don't have to deal with retirement plans. They don't make a lot of these administrative decisions around their commercial experience, right, around their jobs. Well, now, when you go to a self-sovereign employment framework, you're now in charge of those decisions. And most people aren't experts, thank God, in these things, and nor should they have to be. If you think about the situation of a traditional W-2 employer, they're answering all those questions for you. They're making all those decisions. They're helping you navigate all that. They're simplifying all that. Well, in the world of solopreneurism, you're on your own, except Opolis is now here to vertically integrate all of the things that you need to do that. But with that comes kind of a learning gap, right? If there's an education gap that exists, that people have questions and they need them answered, it can be very scary. And what we're doing here is, as opposed to creating a fleet of sort of salespeople or customer service representatives, we're activating the community and incentivizing the community to help people that are in the same situation you're in. And we're going to compensate and incentivize ambassadors who wish to participate in this capacity to advocate and represent the community in Discord or in social media, or even in just their general perusings around their daily social lives or wherever they happen to be, and helping sort of collapse the loop. So again, more to come on the specifics around incentives, et cetera, but this is our way of creating community-driven incentives to grow itself. In other words, we're heavily avoiding building a hierarchical sales department with misaligned incentives, that might not, cover the information the same way as another member might, right? Like we're being very careful to protect the Web3 ethos and the benevolence that we provide to our community. So the next category that I'll unpack here is the coalition. So I could go back and I'm just going to talk about it anecdotally. We have a slide in the deck about Maybe I'll just grab it here real quick. I'll just kind of show it. But one of the things that's happened when we first started Opolis, DAOs weren't even really a thing. I mean, we started Opolis in 2017. I mean, we took a few years to do legal research and framework research and write the white paper and figure out the initial product, et cetera, et cetera. But when we even launched Opolis in the fall of 2020, I mean, we had been building the product for a year and nobody was working in DAOs. Nobody was working in DAOs. So DAOs weren't an obvious channel of adoption for Opolis in the very beginning of this. But now, even in the past 6 months, I mean, things have grown a ton. DAO participation is now over 500,000 active DAO participants. We got 120 DAOs with over $1 million in treasury, and we've seen that 7x grow over the last 6 months. So DAOs absolutely, I mean, it's something I've been talking about for a very long time. DAOs are the future of work, but we just didn't have them as an opportunity to really target as much in the coalition. So back to this, the coalition, it is comprised of channel partners or interested parties that aren't employee members, right? So you're not going to be ever both, right? As an employee member, think about a Venn diagram. You're already a member of the coalition, right? To support self-sovereign workers. You're living it, you're working it, you're doing it. If I'm an individual who's not a member as an employee member, but I still support that effort, I can still make referrals and be compensated for that. In other words, I can kind of be an ambassador without being an employee member, although ambassadorship's a little bit differently incentivized. DAOs are going to be the main concentration of focus. Now, it might be DAOs, it might be an international protocol, it might be, a distributed labor force of group of entities or something. There might be a lot of different sort of varieties of what DAOs mean, because as you all know, DAOs are hardly decentralized, hardly autonomous, and in some cases, barely an organization. So the DAO moniker is a big net for us, but we're really looking at people who are working in the future of work, right? So maybe contributing to multiple projects, working for DAOs, contributing to international protocols, contributing to repos on layer ones, whatever it might be, okay? And then the third part of this, that's the third leg of the stool, is trade associations. So we found that, trade associations have large communities of independent workers in some cases, and we're putting together a strategy to really target them and incentivize them to refer their members. So we've already started work on the DAO approach. I mean, we are in partnership with Bankless and Bankless DAO to experiment with directly marketing to their audience through their podcasts in what's called a Bankless Blitz campaign, which is an advertisement campaign that happens over a 2-week period. And so we are in partnership with them actively to do that. And so far the results have been really, really good. So we are going to be heavily working on approaching and getting DAOs to join the Commons as coalition members, and then also incentivizing them to promote and incentivize their members to actually become employee members of the Commons, which is what drives the ACPV. So you can see how there's sort of a network effect of things that's happening here. And ultimately, we see Opolis as a community of communities. I often talk about this in my work at Denver, where the network effect of success there has been because directly of the community of communities approach that we took. And the fact that it's a community-owned community of communities is really what makes it so vibrant and what makes people so passionate about it. And we're taking the same approach in building Opolis and really trying to build it in a more emergent order way as opposed to a traditional top-down hierarchical way. So product roadmap, I'm gonna, unless you want me to do it, Bill, I'm happy to pass the microphone to you, given that you're our executive steward for product and technology.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, John. Yeah, so obviously this is a highly simplified version of our product roadmap and ignores the fact that we generally have a couple work streams going at once. But our Q1 focus has really been on infrastructure. setting up Opolis to scale, retooling a lot of the base in anticipation of us hitting the next 5,000 members. Q2 is going to be more about iterating on our crypto payroll and adding more functionality and utility to the work token. So we just relaunched crypto payroll this week. Next month, we plan on adding chains. Later into the quarter, we'll experiment with adding additional tokens beyond stablecoins. And then we're also working with Collabland right now to create like a work tipping bot within our Discord. Q3 is really about moving into community as a product. And my thesis and how I feel about Opolis is that the core product is community. Payroll and benefits are essential and great features, but people come here to be owners, to be a part of the Opolis Employment Commons community. And so we want to productize that a little bit more and make sure that people really feel it and can interact with it. And then kind of Q4, which is a busy time for our tech and onboarding team. We'll be looking for, greater integrations with new partners, be that invoicing partners or other tech partners, and then continuing to really focus on optimizing. Like John mentioned, we'll be at or closing in on the 1,000 member mark. And so that means making sure that our services can serve those 1,000 members well, and that when you join Opolis, you really do feel a part of the Opolis community. We don't want you to have to think about your payroll and benefits constantly, but we do want you to think about Opolis and the 900 or however other many freelancers and Web3 folks that might be able to share recommendations, share interests, share opportunities with you. So that's what we're looking for in terms of product roadmap. Again, the community is the end product. It's the key. It's our competitive advantage and secret sauce. And we're just trying to kind of figure out new ways to gamify that and incentivize people to be great community members. So I'll hand it back to you, John. I think you muted yourself.
I did, because I'm on my old laptop, which has a scratchy speaker. So a lot of times it gets feedback in there. So I apologize for that. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, so I just want to reiterate this sort of like community as a product thing that we're going to be emphasizing. And I can't say this enough. We are a community of communities, and we will become and are already, in some sense, a global community of communities, and it's going to continue to grow. And there's no way for us to create sustainability without the active participation of the communities that make up the community of communities. And what makes up a community? People, individuals, and that means you. So you're an owner. As a member, you're an owner in this thing that we call the Opolis Employment Commons. You have work tokens that represent that ownership. And we will be, not shy about asking for your participation and your referrals. Now, again, this isn't about selling your friends on a product they don't need, okay? This is about thinking about who are your friends or your colleagues or people that you know that are suffering from the same problems that you had. They lack access to quality, affordable healthcare. They have a bunch of random 401ks and don't know how to deal with their retirement plan. They really need a W-2 for various reasons. They want to really simplify their lives. They want to be a part of a Web3 community. All of these things are good reasons to bring this up to your friends. So we will be asking for feedback. We will be asking for participation in understanding, what incentives are important and how to appropriately incentivize the community to build itself. But this is the path. This is the path. I don't think that, and I'm just going to say it over and over and over again, as I really don't think that, one, we want to employ a traditional hierarchical sales strategy. And two, I don't think it'll work. We've tested some of these things over the past year. And, there's just too many complexities. when you do that, you're often in normie land, and they don't understand token economics, and they don't understand DAOs, and they don't understand co-ops, and they don't understand a lot of this stuff. In some ways, what that means is we're not ready for normie land yet, or they're not ready for us. Now, there will come a time when the critical mass of Opolis is so prominent that it's just going to be in their face, and they're going to learn about it. They're going to hear about this stuff. But everything happens on an adoption curve, right? We're still in the very early adopters of things as it relates to these types of communities. We are at the tip of the spear when it comes to service DAOs and actually having sustainable business models. In fact, we're probably one of the only DAOs that I can think of that actually has a sustainable business model for scaling globally, and a sticky model that actually has a product that people need and they want to keep, right? It's not fashionable, it's not trendy. This is picks and shovel stuff. So we have an opportunity, unlike almost anything in Web3, but it's going to take a village, right? That's the Web3 ethos, is we've all got to pitch in where we can. We've got to be the advocates of the community of communities approach, and enticing more members and owners to come in, and the strength will grow in numbers. I mean, if we have the purchasing power of 100,000 lives, we can pretty much do whatever we want when it comes to healthcare. We can do whatever we want when it comes to almost anything. And that type of collective bargaining, that type of collective purchasing power in a decentralized, benevolent, sustainably benevolent ecosystem, as it relates to employment, has actually never been done before. Unions have never been able to pull that off. Freelancer collectives have never been able to pull that off. No one's been able to pull that off. So if we're able to execute this thing to a place of scale, which is really just about lead gen, the product sells itself. It's just about getting people interested and into the pipeline, and then ambassadors and our membership stewards can really take it from there. It's about lending credibility to the brand and getting people in the door. It's not a hard sell. I've been on 1,000 calls, and we've never had anybody go, "That's stupid. Why would anybody need that?" Like, this is, everybody that I've spoken to comes out of these calls going, "Wow, this is really new age stuff. I really need this. Maybe not the time's right or whatever, but this is really cool stuff." So we need your help. Okay. Next, I kind of beat the dead horse on that, but I really can't emphasize it enough. All right, so that's the end of the community update investor presentation. You can kind of ignore this unless you want to follow me on Twitter or something. Y'all know where opolis.co is. This, like I said, this slide deck is also going to double as our investor slide deck for the next community investment round that we do, which will be something that we'll discuss at a later Board of Stewards call as we have a little bit more information on that. So with that, I'm going to exit sharing my screen. And are there any, and I don't know where we're fielding questions. I know we're broadcasting a bunch of different places,
We can
Ms. Youngs, but
we can take questions from YouTube if you'd like, or wherever you are streaming. Where would you like to take questions?
wherever. I mean, you want to read them off or tell me where I can find them? If we have any, that is. I'm assuming then we don't have any questions. Is that correct? Mrs. Young?
Yes, we don't have any questions.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I guess everybody's satisfied, at least those that are here. This presentation and the stream will be posted in the Discord and other channels so that you'll be able to watch it later on. So by all means, we are a community of transparency. If you have questions, please fire them off to us. I'm in Discord, the team's in Discord, everyone's in Discord. You all know where to find us in Discord. Discord's easy. With that, Bill, was there anything else product-wise that you wanted to update us on? I think that was kind of,
No, if you're a crypto payroll payer, please go to your dashboard, log into commons.opolis.co to pay for your crypto payroll this cycle and future cycles. But that's the only other big product update.
yeah, so I'm just going to double down on that. So if you recall, there was a hot wallet that we were using to collect crypto payroll from those remitting their payroll in crypto, right? So that's the invoice that we send you. You are remitting that in crypto of some form, right? So that hot wallet is being decommissioned, and you can now do it directly from the dashboard. So log into your commons.opolis.co dashboard using your member email ID and the magic link, and you will be able to remit your payroll directly from the dashboard going forward. So we've streamlined that process and simplified it. To double down on the whole crypto payroll thing, Q2 is coming pretty quickly, and Q2 we will be delivering multi-chain functionality and expanding the amount of the tokens that we'll be able to accept for a direct payment of payroll. So that way you don't have to exchange your community tokens into ETH or USDC or something. But we will be accepting other tokens and trying to expand that as much as possible, going into the future. We want to make it as agnostic and as flexible for people to make payroll payments as they want, or receive whatever they want when it comes to the paycheck, as long as it's within the guidelines of the FLSA standards, which is the Fair Labor Standards Act, which requires that you take at least a minimum wage in fiat currency, which not something that we make the rules on, but you get the drill. We're trying to make this as flexible as possible so that you can have your cake and eat it too. All right. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic here to anybody else on either the Board of Stewards that has any updates, and or it looks like we don't have anybody representing from membership today. I know Josh is in Wyoming at Ethereal, and Aaron unfortunately had a doctor's appointment that he needed to go to. So we don't have anybody from membership here today. I can tell you that our membership funnel from the Bankless campaign that's currently running is going very, very well. So we expect, based on projected numbers, we expect a pretty big April and even into May, because usually the join months kind of cross 2 months because it takes time for some people to join. We're going to continue to probably the partnership with Bankless because it's been so fruitful. If you have other ideas about channels like Bankless that might yield the same type of lead activity, we'd love to see the referral activity multiply in 20 different venues if we could do it. But yeah, let us know if you have any ideas. So Ian, do you have anything with respect to technology updates beyond what Bill touched on product?
Oh, nothing too big. We're aware that members have been experiencing a couple of our growing pains as we move to new infrastructure, and we do apologize for that. To some degree, it's a normal part of making the site more scalable and more reliable. The analogy gets thrown around a lot in the field is it's trying to build the airplane while you're flying it. So we had a little bit of turbulence, but we're keeping the plane in the air, and it's going to be a much bigger and better plane than it's been before. So we'd like to thank everybody for their patience, understanding, and please do communicate the errors to us as well. Like, don't assume someone else has told us. We love hearing from you, and we're going to do our very best to make sure that anything that goes wrong is cosmetic and everybody's bank accounts still have the correct balance.
Correct. Thank you for that. One thing I'll mention, just to dovetail on that, we did get some messages about some emails, some errant emails that went out that were not appropriate for the particular member situation. For example, like, oh, you're going to be debited from your account when like somebody's paying in crypto, those kinds of things. Those issues have been and are being resolved. That's part of the retooling of the core infrastructure stack. There was some embedded code around emails that we're now taking out and fixing. So the appropriate emails will be directed to the appropriate people now. There were some site updates that were made that unfortunately caused some of those errors, but the problem was a little bit more sophisticated than we had originally anticipated, but now it's being fixed and solved. Once the once the
Yeah, I was
retool,
just saying that's a great example, John. And like that's the case as well, where if anything's going to go wrong, we're making sure it's cosmetic, like a bad email, not a bad bank transfer. We have never had one of those, and knock on wood, we're being very careful to never have one of those.
yeah. Now, once the stack has been retooled and that's complete, a lot of these existing sort of like issues are going to go away. But it's going to be, you know, another month or so before we're done with all that. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Do you have anything on the legal side for us?
Nope, no updates. Sounds like we're going to have to update our bylaws and some of our organizational docs though.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug real quick on our efforts on Ukraine?
Yes, so yes, I guess SporkDAO kindly donated some funds to Ukraine DAO. We've joined forces on Ukraine United DAO and Ukraine DAO and Unchained Fund in just kind of a Web3 approach to helping out with the crisis in Ukraine. Some coming from fundraising, some coming from Web3 tooling that is being created independently by groups of engineers across the world, and also with a hackathon that's forthcoming called Hack for Ukraine. So more updates on that. If anybody's interested, please ping me in Discord, and more updates next week on how to get involved. Oh, John, you're muted.
I got it. Thanks, Yev. Please reach out to Yev if you have any questions, if you want to get involved. You know, I'll just say from my view, I think what's happening in Ukraine is an atrocity. And I think war in general is an atrocity. And I think anything that diminishes human creativity and the love towards mankind is just absolutely, I mean, I can't think of anything worse than war. And so we want to be as supportive as we can. And thus why we're being supportive and why we're doing the things that we're doing. But please reach out to Yev if you have any specific questions. She's been an inspirational leader on this front. So thank you for all that you're doing, Yev. And I know that you and your family are doing everything you can to bring some level of comfort to a really shitty situation.
Thank you, John. I appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, let's see. Any other Board of Stewards members have anything? Oh, Christina's here. Christina, do you have anything with respect to marketing?
No, I don't have anything in addition to what's already been shared regarding Bankless. I will say that we've had big improvement. We have a great conversion rate on our landing page. We're running 38%, which is for those of you in marketing is pretty insane. Last time our campaign had a 17% conversion rate on that landing page. So super happy with what's happening right now with Bankless and keeping an eye to make sure we get all those qualified leads through the funnel and bring on a lot of new members for Opolis.
Great, thanks. All right, anybody else on the board? Spencer, Eric, Barry, anybody have anything they want to mention? If not, we're coming up on time anyhow, and we'll give people 5 minutes back.
Great update in general. It was really nice to see, a high level overview. And yeah, great work, guys.
Well, thanks. I'm still bummed that I missed you at East Denver, dude.
Yeah, I was chasing you around.
10,000 damn people. And it's like, I mean, literally, I didn't see Joe Lubin. I didn't see you. I didn't see like a bunch of people. It was crazy. Yeah, I mean, you know, in some ways I wouldn't do it different, but like in other ways, it's like, holy cow, like how do we even manage this? Next time we're gonna have to schedule something, dude. And we shouldn't wait a year. For
Hey,
sure.
John, when do you start taking volunteers for the next East Denver? How can people get involved in that?
Oh, that's a good question. So we are in the process of beefing up our internal staff right now. So we will be getting a head start on pre-planning for the 2023 installation sometime this summer. So a call for volunteers will go out sometime probably this summer. We will be incentivizing volunteerism a little bit more actively through sport tokens, NFTs, et cetera, also priority acceptance, right? We did have a wait list of like 9,000 people, I think was the grand total at the end of the day. We had 28,000 total applications to attend, both virtual and in person. So, I mean, it was a lot. Like, that's a lot. We've never had, for context, we've never had more than, say, I don't know, 3,500 applications before total, you know? Even though we had 31,000 unique URLs attend the 2021 installation, like we only had 3,500 to 4,000 total applications to attend. And it was all virtual, right? So this year was just, you know, I guess it was sort of the coming out party in some ways. I mean, you know, it's grown to take on an entire life of its own. So this summer is when we'll be doing a call to action there. There will also be some stuff happening around SporkDAO intermittently, right? So SporkDAO is becoming a year-round activity. It's not just going to be a once-a-year event. There will be, I'm dropping a little alpha here, but there will be likely some international events that we will participate in, either hosting or producing, and some ongoing gamification, and call them, you know, challenges or, you know, events, you know, like micro events that people can do to earn, you know, more stakeholdership in the community, whether it's direct compensation, sport tokens, et cetera, like, so we're taking the next leap, and it's going to be really fun to see it grow. All right, we are at time, folks. So appreciate everybody's valuable time. We should actually start, you know, including community members, like what's your time worth, and like show the value of this weekly call, because it's a very valuable call. We should all take it very seriously, which is why we don't hold them if we're not ready, or if we don't have substance to share. So thank you so much for your time and your contribution to the comments, and we will see you around the workforce. Bye, guys.